But this baby, Uncle Henry, that's just the trouble. And I tried to get back for days and days.
There, lie quiet now. You just had a bad dream.
But you know,
Remember me?
We dream lots of silly
Your old pal, huh?
no, again. This was a
Me?
real, truly live case.
Hickory? You couldn't forget my face, could you?
Oh, I am a dream machine.
Cinema is like a dream. Watching movies is like daydreaming. Cinema is Oneiric in its very nature.
I see when I sleep.
The act of watching a movie is very much like a dream. You sort of go into a room, it's very dark. This is something similar to REM that happens with your eyes in terms of watching different frames happening on screen. Your body sort of slows down somewhat and you experience things in a very sort of similar way to how we perceive or think we understand dreams to work. Then you leave and you kind of wake up and the bright sun sort of drags you back into reality, and you actually have something similar to what happens with dreaming, is that if the film was effective, you will start to rethink about what you saw, and a lot of images will come back to you, and you'll have a kind of experience similar to what they call secondary elaboration, which is where you'll try and make sense of dreams after you've seen them.
These kinds of endings allow you to think a bit more. I love a film that leaves me thinking. Even right from the very beginning, early film theorists and filmmakers, they realised the relationship, how cinema and dream were so akin to each other.
That if you were to go to like a party with all these film snobby, historian, criticky types, and you'd go to films like a dream, they'd go, yeah, okay, of course it is. No, because it is, but I don't care what they say with their snobby rolled eyes. It is like a dream. You know, Buñuel said that when you go into a cinema and it's like falling asleep, you know, the eyes adjust to the dark and the screen comes alive, like the dream screen, the canvas that projects images. Yeah, absolutely, it's like a dream. Time works in a film like it does in a dream. It goes all over the shop. You know, we fade to black when we blink. But yes, I think there's an absolute correlation. And this is why I think films being, as Eisenstein said, the total art, total cinema, is why I think it's the closest approximation you'll ever get of dreams. But dreams are like neurons being fired in the head. What we have in cinema are you know, like snapshots of dreams, or ideas of dreams just flickering.
Well, my first experience with me knowing that I wanted to be a filmmaker probably happened when I was around 8, where I used to squint my eyes and it was like pressing the record button. And I used to be able to squint my eyes during the day and film stuff. And then that night I could go and sleep and watch my rushes of the day. And only reflecting on that a few years ago really justified what I was doing, because having that experience when I was so young, which I felt I had the power for a long time, there was many times that I was able to capture things and then watch them that night, and it was that night as well. It wasn't like it could happen a few days later. I actually was recording and playing.
There's a lot of filmmakers who I'm particularly interested in who seem to really want to dig deep in their subconscious and bring that into their work. With my films, I really enjoy working in metaphors, so I try and make things non-literal. And I suppose that is related to dreams and the subconscious, because in that sense nothing is ever very literal, and if you ever have a strange, crazy dream and look up the meaning of that, it's always interesting to see the symbolism that works in it, whether it's colours or different animals or anything like that, and I'm really interested in mixing that into my work.
So I watched E.T. for the first time when I was about 3, and then E.T. infiltrated my mind and my dreams, and sometimes he was nice to me, and sometimes he was trying to kill me. Maybe it was because it was the first character that was made up or make believe or surreal. But he was real in my mind. He had a connection with me. Well, I felt we had a connection. And yeah, he definitely took over my dreams for a long period of time.
But on occasions, I have had good sort of stories crop up in my dreams. One occasion, I did have this plan to write a perfect 5-minute script, and nothing was coming into my mind when I'd sit down and try and write. But I obviously had that desire there, and one night when I went to bed, I actually dreamt a whole scene of that script, which I hadn't written yet. So I woke up and I wrote that down about 3 a.m. So my desires went into my dreaming state, and there my prayers were kind of answered.
Dream auteurs give the subconscious life.
There's always been a dimension to cinema which is just turn your brain off and use it as a way of sort of experiencing visual pleasure. You know, the roots of cinema are in the Nickelodeon and in the Travelling Carnival, and it was never taken particularly serious from the very start, you know. Also, I guess genres themselves are kind of like different kinds of dreams that you might have. Horror film's obviously very similar to like a nightmare. Romantic film was obviously some sort of happy dream that you might have or something like that. Any sort of film technique you can think of has some sort of connection in a way to how we perceive dreams to work and so on.
Narrative elements of film go beyond spatial and temporal laws. We watch cinema in a dark room reminiscent to the isolation of sleeping.
The cinema is, it sells us certain dreams. I guess that's what annoys me about it quite often. Mainstream cinema, you know, selling these dreams of like living happily ever after.
Just like the stars upon your ceiling.
You have to be active. I think there's an active viewer, an active audience, and then there's the ones that perhaps get snuffed a bit.
I think movies should be watched as late as possible, as long as you can still stay awake. Because you're in a kind of totally defenseless kind of like, you know, you don't care enough to change the channel or whatever, so you'll just kind of let it happen. And sometimes you'll be pleasantly surprised when you've got, and your defenses are down, especially when it comes to horror films and stuff. So you won't be like, ooh, you're like, ah, bring it on.
Films don't change. They stay the same, but you change, and it's amazing how much the film changes because you change. So that's endless source of fascination, I think.
Night breezes seem to whisper of you. Birds singing in the sycamore tree. My little dream of me. Say nighty night and kiss me.